If you're talking about sprint freestyle, it's common to hear the term shoulder-driven freestyle or freestyle shoulder drive used. It's a way to describe key differences between a sprint freestyle stroke and more of a distance or an aerobic freestyle stroke. While this term is used to describe a really important concept in freestyle swimming, it can be a little bit confusing. Let's take a look at what freestyle shoulder drive is all about in simple terms that can make it a lot easier to improve this key skill. Hi everyone, Andrew here, helping you help your swimmers get faster. Well, it's pretty intuitive and pretty obvious that swimmers use different skills when they're swimming freestyle at different speeds. There wasn't a whole lot of consideration as to what was actually happening. That changed when Mike Bottom started talking about the different styles of freestyle, and the two primary styles that he identified were shoulder-driven freestyle, which is used during sprinting, and hip-driven freestyle, which is used during distance swimming. When Mike named these different skill sets, it became obvious that we need to address them in different ways. And training swimmers to be good at one wasn't necessarily going to help them become better at the other. The naming of these skills can make it a little bit difficult to understand exactly what's happening and what the best strategies might be for helping swimmers learn these skills. I'm going to break this skill down to its simplest components so that you can understand exactly what's happening. And once you can understand what's happening, you can figure out how to help your swimmers learn this key skill. When it comes down to it, shoulder-driven freestyle is all about timing. And when sprinters try to go really fast, they change their timing so that the arms move in opposition. So if we watch here, you see the left hand is entered here, right as the right hand has finished the stroke, and then they're going to switch sides, and then the hand on the right is going to be in the front of the stroke, and the hand on the left is going to be in the back of the stroke. And that is the essential timing that swimmers need to achieve in order to go as fast as possible in the sprints. Now, to understand the term shoulder-driven freestyle, we're going to have to take a step back, look at distance swimming in order to understand the differences in timing between the two. So we just saw a sprinter that swam in opposition with their arms. And what we're going to see here is a distance swimmer that's not using opposition timing. They're using more of a catch-up or front quadrant timing. So if we watch here, the hand's going to enter, and then he's going to rotate, and both arms are going to end up in the front quadrant in the front of their body at the same time. And so from a timing standpoint, that's really different. The hands are going to enter here, right there, and then he's going to rotate. And so what happens is as the hand reaches forward, the hip shifts down, and he's going to rotate forwards. So that's kind of where the hip-driven concept comes from. It's enter and then rotate. And then the rotation is going to be kind of pushed forward from the hips. So right here, it's enter and then rotate. Enter right there and then rotate. And so that's what's happening from a timing standpoint in distance freestyle. Now let's go back to the sprint freestyle timing and check that out with a newfound perspective. So we saw earlier how sprint freestyle, their arms are in opposition, but let's take a look at what happens from a rotation standpoint. So we saw in the previous video that the distance swimmer entered the water and then rotated. What happens here is the swimmer is going to enter on the left right here, and he's already rotated. And so that is the key difference in timing. The rotation happens as the arms are recovering, and the rotation is completed right there as the hand enters, as opposed to the distance swimmer who is entering and then rotating. And so when the sprinter is driving the recoveries and rotating through the recoveries, that's where the concept of shoulder drive comes from. Watch his shoulder right here, his left shoulder. He's going to enter here and rotate as he enters, and you can see that there's a pretty big shoulder movement right there. And so that's where that term is most likely coming from. Whereas in the distance swimmer, we saw the entry and then the rotation forward, and that rotation happened through the hips in that position. But it's mostly the timing of the rotation that is really driving these changes. So the rotation is happening as the recoveries happen, and then it's completed when the hand enters the water, as opposed to entering the water and then rotating. So that allows swimmers to create a lot more propulsion because they can always be creating propulsion with at least one arm. So if we watch here, his right arm is finishing here, so still creating some propulsion. And then the left arm, as soon as the right arm finishes, the left arm is on it. And then we switch sides, and then the left arm is finishing here as the right arm starts to create propulsion. So by changing the timing and rotating as the recoveries happen, so the rotation happens before the entry or as the entry happens, that allows swimmers to create a situation where they're always creating propulsion with one arm. And so again, You can see that the shoulders are moving aggressively at the entry, and that is what the term shoulder-driven freestyle really comes from. And in terms of what's actually happening, it's the timing of the rotation that's different in sprint freestyle as compared to distance freestyle. It's that as the hand enters, the rotation has completed as opposed to the rotation happening after the entry. And that allows swimmers to maintain the arms in opposition, which means one arm is always creating propulsion. And to return to the distance swimmer, right here, he's not creating any propulsion with his arms. His right arm is recovering, his left arm is hanging out in front, and it's not till right about there where he starts to create propulsion with that left side. And then we watch here, he just finished propulsion on the left side. He hasn't done anything with the right arm, and so he's gonna be slowing down. He's not gonna be going as fast. And then he still hasn't created propulsion. Now he's probably creating propulsion with that right arm. And so there's huge gaps with the distance timing. And so there's a much less aggressive motion through the shoulder because the rotation is happening after the entry as opposed to during the recovery and happening before the entry when swimmers are sprinting. And so that's where the term shoulder drive comes from. It's all about a change in timing and a change in rotation timing relative to the arm recoveries. And then the sprinter, by rotating through the recovery so that the body is already rotated once the hand enters, there doesn't have to be any delay to create propulsion with that arm. So swimmers can create propulsion immediately. And that is what allows swimmers to go fast. It's not so much that they're using different muscles or driving from the shoulders, it's that they're timing the rotation so that they're fully rotated once the hand enters so that they can create propulsion right away. They don't have to wait to rotate because it's already happened. And that is what allows swimmers to go faster because they can create propulsion immediately, which means that there aren't gaps in propulsion between the arms, which means that they can create more speed. This front view presents a really good visual of that. So if we watch each arm, boom, he's already rotated to that side once that hand enters. So right there, he's rotated, and you can see his right arm is still under the water. He's still creating propulsion with his right arm as he begins to create propulsion with the left arm. And so with each arm, what we'll see is he enters and he's already rotated. He's finishing with the right arm here. He's setting up his pull with the left arm here. So there's not going to be any gap. And then we go to the other side. Boom. He's rotated as he enters the hand. The left arm is finishing the stroke. So there's no gap in propulsion as he goes through. And then boom, again, he's already rotated onto that side when the hand enters. And again, he's already rotated onto that side when the hand enters. And it's the timing of the rotation and make sure it's happening as the arms are recovering so that the body is already rotated once the hand enters. That's critical for creating a lot of speed in sprint freestyle. If you want to learn more about how to improve rotational timing in freestyle and specifically help swimmers learn how to differentiate between distance timing and sprint timing, check out the videos below.